All right, we're changing out rotors and pads on this 2013 Kia Sorento. So first thing you're gonna have to do, get it jacked up, pull the wheel off. You have 5 21 millimeter wheel nuts. Then next thing we need to do is remove this brake caliper. So there's 2 14 millimeter bolts that hold that on, followed by this anchor bracket that's in behind it. And there's 2 17 millimeter anchor bolts, one here, one down at the bottom. So let's get this caliper off. Okay, then we can go ahead and remove our brake caliper. Maybe kind of stuck on there, so a flathead screwdriver or ideally a pry bar would help get that off. I've got some hooks here. Completely up to you. I do recommend taking a hook to hang your brake caliper up. You don't want it falling off and destroying the hose. And then we can now switch over this top bolt, the 17 for this bracket. The strut is sort of in the way to use like an impact socket. So I actually have a 17 millimeter flex socket that I'm going to put on the end of my gun, and I'm going to do it that way. All right, here we go. Okay, and then once we get that off, we can set this to the side. And we're ready to take our disc off, but we need to take these set screws out. Now these things get really, really rusted in there, so I recommend, instead of just using a screwdriver, it'd be a number 2 Phillips, by the way, using a hammer driver. So looks like this. As you hammer on the end of it, it drives into the screw and it turns at the same time, which reduces the risk of slipping or stripping out the screw. So we'll get those ones out, and then we can take our disc off. Okay, so now to get this disc off, we're just going to hammer it, preferably from the back side. So I'm going to turn it this way a little bit so that I can come in here. And I put a nut on here so the disc doesn't go flying off. But just like that, not too much to it. And there may be a large rust ridge that's in around here that might catch on the hub, but you'll get it off eventually. Now we need to clean, descale a bunch of rust, and then we can start cleaning the hub. All right, so now we're just going to take all the rust scale off of this, and we definitely want to clean on the inside here where these clips go on. These clips just pop off, and I'm going to use a wire wheel. Sandblaster is my number 1 pick, but I'm sure most of you don't have a sandblaster, so that's fine. You can use a wire wheel on a drill. We need to get these clean, take all the rust out. We also want to service these slider pins, so they should slide. Hopefully they're not seized. You can see this one's nice and clean on the inside. A lot of times rust will work its way past this rubber boot. Once the moisture gets inside, they get rusty and they seize up and they can't slide. So you can see this one is pretty rusty compared to this one. So maybe this one's been replaced in the past, but all the rust that's in that little groove, we're gonna clean all of that. And then once we get that all cleaned up, I'll show you what kind of lubricant we can use to service these slider pins, and also what kind of stuff we should use underneath of the clips and on the ends of the pads. Yeah, I use this needle descaler to get all the rough rust scale off. So All right, we've got this little attachment here. It cleans around the studs. There's not much space around here to get a lot of tools, so this works really good. And then for the rest of it, we just use this. Same material, this one's just dirty. It's like a Scotch-Brite roll-lock cookie attachment. Just screws on there. You can buy these at most hardware stores, tool store, online even. We'll probably put a link in the description. And yeah, I just go around and clean all the rust off. This hub has to be clean. When we go to put the new disc on, you need a nice flat surface so that the disc mates up to the hub and everything runs true, so that your brakes feel nice and smooth when you go to slow down. And if you don't clean that, there's a good chance that when you go to slow down, you'll get a brake pedal pulsation, because there'll be a bit of more rust on one side compared to the other, so it'll be off-centered, and then as the wheel is spinning, the disc will be wobbling like that. So yep, we just have to get this cleaned up, and it's looking good. All right, I'm gonna use some Permatex anti-seize. This is the copper anti-seize. You can use whatever anti-seize you want. I recommend you use anti-seize. And we're just gonna apply some on the hub, and just try not to get any on the wheel studs. If you do, not a big deal, we can clean it off afterwards, but we need the wheel studs to be clean of rust and also dry. Okay, so we've got our disc ready to go. Before we install this, we want to make sure that there's no oil film on here. So we can just hit it with a little bit of brake cleaner and wipe it off. What's up, you goof? Okay, so we got the disc on there now. After we wash it off, we just want to tighten these set screws down, but we don't have to tighten them too much. We just want them to be snug. Okay, so one of the screws was pretty much junk, and tried to tighten it down. I just can't get it in. The threads are kind of not very nice on it, so not a big deal. Honestly, with these ones, with the wheel studs, you almost don't even need them. If one of these break off or you have to drill them out, make sure that it's at least flush, or that the holes line up. You don't want it to be off, and then that bit of broken stud that's in there is not letting it seat. So now we're ready to install our bracket, and we can get our pads on. All right, so we've got the bracket. I've painted it up after we got all the rust off. Everything looks good. I did spray some stuff underneath of these clips to try to prevent rust from coming back, even though I've already painted them. And now I'm just going to be using some of this anti-seize. I'm just putting some inside the clips here where the pads are going to sit, and do both sides, and then we'll be ready to throw this thing on the car. Now the torque spec for these, once we get them on, you're looking at 72.3 foot-pounds is what they say. So let's get this thing installed, and we'll snug those down. There is like a locking washer that comes on these things from the factory. So it doesn't say anything about replacing them. This one, hold on, this one I'm gonna have to just like... Now the strut is like kind of in the way. I don't know if that's just because of these aftermarket struts, but with like a regular big impact socket, I couldn't get in there properly. So you may need like a short socket. Okay, now we can get our pads ready to go in. All right, so we've got our brake pads. You'll notice the brake pads you buy, most of them will come with a squealer tab. That's this piece right here, so that when your brake friction material wears down, this piece runs into the disc and causes them to squeal to let you know that you're almost out of brakes. I like to put this one on the inside, and then the one without the squealer tab I put on the outside. And the brake pad should be nice and free in there, but not a lot of play up and down. We just want it to be able to slide in and out nicely. Now before we stick our caliper on, we need to retract that so that we've got enough space because of the new thick brake pads. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab some big channel lock pliers to push this back. There is actually a brake caliper pushback tool that is designed to push this back. A lot of these piston cups nowadays are made out of ceramic, and they are hard but also very brittle. So one thing you can do is take an old brake pad, use the old one, and just set it on there, and then squeeze it down like that, rather than the jaws of pliers right on the brake caliper piston. Reduces the chances of it breaking. So you could do it like that. If you decide you're gonna do it like this, just go slow with it. And now we're ready to put our bolts back in. And we can torque those bolts down to 23.1 foot-pounds. Now in this case where the pin slides like that and you can't get it torqued down, you could use needle nose vice grips, or if you really wanted to, you could purchase some slim wrenches from Ulsa Tools, link in the description. I'm gonna go grab one to show you why. Okay, those fit on nice. Regular wrench is too thick to fit on that in between the space. So that's why I use the skinny slim wrenches. They work great. Okay, now we're ready to install our wheel. All right, once you get those snug down, you can go ahead and torque those down in a 5-star pattern to 80 foot-pounds. That's the spec. All right, that's pretty much it. Wraps up the front rotor and pad replacement on 2013 Kia Sorento. If you have any questions, throw them in the comment section below. I'd be glad to answer anything you might have. And give the video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. If you want to learn more about cars, go to the channel, watch all kinds of videos. We got tons. That's it. See you in the next one.